think, okay, build it and they will come. This can happen. So I'm always that optimistic person, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
joyful and I'm grateful for everything. And I tell you, I've had some major roadblocks, major, that would have stopped someone in their tracks years earlier. But I
Mm-hmm.
kept going. And it's because of that optimistic behavior that I have, right? But also it's in the genes, like you can tell, of course, I got a whole bunch of other folks mixed up in here, but hey, I'm Black. And they say Black don't crack. So I'm claiming that. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
if when that master narrative kicks in, I probably just like crack overnight. I'd be looking like 90 in 2 days. So we're gonna hold on to them Black genes as much as possible.
Yes, yes,
I
yes. No,
have no filter, Jeffrey, by the way, as you can tell. So I hope people don't get offended.
and I think we're going to have a great informative conversation. And for the new people who just stepped into the room, me and Deena are just having small talk while we're just letting the crowd roll in. We're just going to give it another 5 minutes before we get started. Um, so yeah, just back to,
Jeffrey, you didn't know I was 62?
I did not, and I would have never guessed that. I really thought you were in your 40s or 50s the most.
Look, Dale's looking, he's looking like, man, she look 82. She look her age. You just trying to be nice. Dale, I saw your facial expressions. I could read body language.
No, I would have, I truly and honestly would have never gotten that. But really, just because, one, we've only met virtually and you're just so full of energy and you're so vibrant. You meet other 60, 70-year-olds and they're not so vibrant. You're a person running two businesses.
Oh
And,
yeah.
yeah,
Actually three.
you see that? Yeah, I don't
No,
even know.
actually four. It's actually four.
Amazing. Okay, so what are the other two? I know iUrban Teen and I know Mosaic.
Well,
What's the
there's
other two?
iUrban Teen, and then I have Mosaic Métier, which is like my monster wannabe. It's a job board where companies can post and advertise their jobs trying to reach diverse talent. But then I'm also a keynote speaker, and I do a lot of diversity consulting as well. And I'm also one of the founding members for Black Women in STEM 2.0. And we are now at the beginning stages of planning our conference that's going to be in Dallas. And I have iUrban Teen attached to Black Women in STEM, and we do these pitch sessions with the girls in our program and match them with different companies, and they do a pitch at the
Mm-hmm.
actual Black Women in STEM conference. So I stay busy.
Yes, yes. No, that's so good. And you know what? That's another question I have for you. I've been doing a lot of studying of history now, and one of the consistent themes in history for empire building is structure and order. So, what is your secret to bringing structure and order to your kingdom? Because you're a person wearing so many hats, and I only with the two companies I know how hard you're working, and now you have another two that you just sprung upon me. So you must have some serious structure and order.
Well, I do now, but I did not before, because
Mm,
it's really hard to find people that share your rhythm. And that's what I tell all young entrepreneurs is when you surround yourself with that tribe, with those people who are going to help get your program or your company to the next level, surround yourself with people that share your rhythm. I think fast, I move extremely fast. A lot of people can't keep up. And I truly believe in accountability, right? When you're
mm-hmm.
showing me that you're not accountable, I get rid of you, because I am building this empire. And what I'm doing for these youth, I can't placate to you and if you're slacking. So yeah, I do get rid of people kind of quickly,
Yeah,
when they're not performing. Um, so um, so yeah, but what I do is I get people and put them in different spots where I know that they're going to keep that ball moving so that I can still stay that visionary person that I am and build those roads and those pathways with corporate partners, et cetera. So I need to be able to do that work.
Okay. You know what? That's some great points that you're making. And I mean, not to get too inquisitive into your personal business, but I'm just curious. Could you speak to how many people you're managing with all the businesses combined?
Let's see here. I'm going to say a total of about 16.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
about 16 people. And a lot of those are our own iUrban teen students who are now in college who are interning with us. And I do that intentionally as well. Um, you know, to get them working and paid to do work. Because I tell them, not only are you going to be making an income with interning with us, but you're also going to be learning about program design and product development. These are things that you put on your resume, right?
Yeah, no,
So
that's
everything
amazing.
is a pathway for them.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I like how you did that. You have your program and you're helping people get skills, you know, but it's almost 6:40. So I think we could just go ahead and get started.
I thought we were already started.
Oh, no, we were just having small talk.
Do you think I'm gonna have to repeat all that again?
Not quite, but we're gonna intro you. But I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I'm Jeffrey DeRose, the director at the CSI Tech Incubator. We're here with a very special guest, Deena Pierrot. She is, I mean, to me, I personally think that she's a living legend. You know, she is a woman of color doing amazing things. Deena has her national STEM program called iUrban Team, where she's helping bring STEM education to people of color and also respectfully white people across the country. And her program is open to everybody and anybody that needs help and wants to advance themselves through education. She also has her company Mosaic, which is a diversity recruiting. Is it that the diversity recruiting platform? Mosaic is a diversity recruiting platform. And then you also have Mindshare. Mindshare is another platform that you have so many.
Mindstream.
Yes, you have Mindstream, which is a content learning platform. So if you're a person that wants to go and pick up, you know, skills for, you know, for work like web development skills, marketing skills, etc., there's people on her platform teaching different classes in those different areas. So it's kind of like a Udemy or a Code Academy, you know, like one of those learning platforms. So that's amazing. And then you're also a keynote speaker. So with that being said, I just want to give you the floor, Deena, just to introduce yourself and just give a little background on, you know, who you are and where you come from.
Oh gosh. Okay. So a little bit of background on myself. You know, I tell people everything that I do is centered around equity, inclusion, and diversity. All right. Everything with all of those organizations, it's centered there. And, you know, I think that when people are young, there's signs and signals of things that could be your pathway, right? Things that you should be doing or could be doing. And so when I was in elementary school, I was that kid that was trying to make sure everybody was included, right? Because I already knew at that young age what it felt like to be excluded, and it didn't feel good. I didn't want anyone else to feel that. So I was making sure all the kids, the little quiet ones, were involved and engaged and all that stuff. And so now look what I do in the diversity space, in the education space, is ensure that everyone has those same opportunities to thrive and everyone's included. And that's the basis pretty much for iUrban Teen, that they are included in this educational opportunity pathway, right? That's what I do when I work with companies on equity, inclusion, and belonging trainings and all. That's what I talk about in my keynotes. You know, I was very fortunate to have and be invited to Prague a couple of years ago to do a keynote diversity presentation for the Linux Foundation. You know, so that was quite the experience. And so I really want to do more international, you know, keynotes, because what I've learned was some of the issues that we have here, they're global issues around the world, right? So how could we, you know, how can I help put a dent into some of those narratives? Now, going back to when I was younger, you know, I think that I am just driven to be a community advocate or someone, a bridge builder for other folks. And I had such amazing experiences with people over the years. I don't know, see, a lot of you are too young to remember Robert Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, John F. Kennedy's younger brother. He was running for presidency, for the president of the United States back in 1968, and he was killed in Los Angeles. Well, right before he stopped in Los Angeles, my mother took my sisters and I to this field, you know, this open field. They had a stage there. We were the first ones there. And a couple hours later, everybody else started coming in and filling in the audience. And then a motorcade came in, and it was actually him. I didn't know who he was, so I was too young to realize. And so since we were the first ones there, we were right at the lineup by the steps where you go up. There was a rope, people started pushing forward and pushed me over the rope. So I was dangling from this rope. And what I remembered was this man that knelt down, he bent down and he pushed me back up and patted me on my head. And I remembered this smile. It was
Oh,
the most
wow.
elegant, beautiful smile I had ever seen. Then I saw the man walk up on stage and I realized, oh, he must be who we're here for, still not knowing this connection. And then a couple of days later, I remember walking into the living room and my mother crying, this sorrowful cry. And that man that patted me on the head was on TV and they were saying that he had died. And so, I think about him and the way he was community and people focused. And I think about now, okay, now I'm going into la la land here, but sometimes I think people that you meet along the way are passing the torch on to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I met Congressman John Lewis because I have an annual Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast in Vancouver, Washington. And I was so blessed at the last minute to get the congressman there to speak.
Wow.
And just this connection between he and I'm like, okay, here's this other person along this pathway, right? I just hope that some of these students in iUrban Teen, when I'm long gone, I'm 62, I ain't getting no younger, but when I'm long gone, I'm hoping that they will say the same about me, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
I mean,
sometimes your path is right in front of you, but you don't notice it or see it
mm-hmm.
until much later in life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's really interesting. And I think that brings us to a great foundation for the topic of today, right? Which is about starting social impact ventures. So can you maybe just speak to I don't know, is iUrban Teen your first social impact venture, or what was your first venture
No,
in the impact space and what drove you to do it?
my first one was the diversity recruiting and training things, because I wanted to make sure that these companies knew the importance of inclusion. That started back in 2007. Then I created a group called the Urban Entrepreneurs Network that was for BIPOC small business owners on how do they get opportunities in spaces that they're usually not given entree to. So I had these annual called Urban Business Summits that I had in Portland in partnership with Mercy Corps for a number, about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I launched iUrban Teen. So
Ah.
iUrban Teen is like my third, my
Oh,
third
wow.
social community impact kind of organization. And now, of course, Black Women in STEM 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if we spoke about it yet, but can you just maybe just get into just full scale, like what is iUrban Teen, what's the mission, what's the vision, and how you guys are creating change in minority communities?
Wow. iUrban Teen is a STEM plus arts program that I created. This is our 10th year anniversary. I created it, in 2011, largely because there was things leading up to that. I was a commissioner here in Washington State on the Governor's Commission on African American Affairs. And all of our ethnic commissions were talking about the opportunity gap issue, especially for male youth of color. And so I have 2 sons. And so it hit home for me. So I started looking in my community and seeing what can I do to create a dent in this, in this gap. And so I instantly started working with our families and schools. They had the Running Start program, which is, for those of you who don't know what Running Start is, it's an opportunity for high school juniors to get into this program where they're actually taking college courses and high school courses. So they can graduate high school with not only a high school diploma, but with an associate's degree for free. The
Wow.
problem in Vancouver, Washington, was that the school counselors weren't telling our brown and Black families about the program. So that's one case of education inequity. So I started working with our local NAACP organization, making sure families knew about it, and also helping to coach the kids on passing that test. Then I was asked to participate on a Chief Information Officer Council in Portland. And when I went to the very first meeting, I walked into the room a tad bit late, because sometimes we be late, okay? Sometimes we be showing up late. So anyway, I walked in just a tad bit late, and it was, I see Francesca laughing, girl, it's true. It's true. I wanted to do a diva entrance anyway. Okay. So I walked in and it was a room full of white men. And so I sat down. And this is another thing that I try to tell our women and our folks of color. When you walk into a room like that where it's all white men, don't sit back in the back of the room like a wallflower. I did the church hold, okay, like walked up right through the center of the room to the front of the room and asked these guys at this one table to move over so I can get a seat here, please, right? So yeah, no, I stopped the whole meeting and walked in. I told you I was doing a diva move. And the other thing too is when, and again, another engagement piece to show people I am here, I'm engaged, I'm speaking, right? And so when it came time to ask questions, I was the first one that raised my hand. I already knew the answer to my question. I did that on purpose so that they can see I'm here, okay? And so, but while I was sitting there, I realized, I said, okay, so over here we have these youth being marginalized, disenfranchised, incarcerated, all these things, no clear pathway to success. But here in this room is where the opportunities are. So how do I bridge this divide? And that's when I came up with iUrban Teen, and I launched it 6 months later with the help of some of those guys in that room, okay? Who are still tethered to our program over the years. And so when I had the first event, it was a STEM summit on the campus of Washington State University. And, when the parents are dropping off the kids, I said, no, stay, this is home, go stay. So that started our parent engagement model. So when I had the first one, I knew we had to keep going. I had to make sure that we kept things that were funky, that were fast-paced, hands-on, because I knew I had to grab them quickly. So since then, word of mouth buzz happened. So then we started spreading our programs to Seattle. We're in Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, Los Angeles. In my hometown, Compton, I moved up to Portland from Compton, California. And that was a huge culture shock, but I knew I wanted to bring my program back home. So we're there in that area. We are in Dallas and in Houston and looking to launch there in New York. We now have a partnership with 2 HBCUs, Southern University in Louisiana and Florida Memorial University in Miami. We're curating right now a month-long series of workshops for the students in Shreveport that we're gonna launch this summer. I was blessed to be honored by President Barack Obama for this program back in 2013 as a White House Champion of Change for Technology Inclusion, and invited back 3 more times because they created a program called My Brother's Keeper that was loosely based off of iUrban Teen.
Yes. Wow. What a phenomenal backstory, and you really had such a road that you kind of started from nothing and went all the way to the White House. That's
all the way to the White House and back. Okay. No, it's been very rewarding. Now, the problem with all of that is the problem is, and what I told what I told the White House that day, at the end of the day, and you've heard me say this before, Jeffrey, but you're gonna hear it again. Yes. But at the end of the day, they asked, well, what are some of your challenges? One, I was the only program there that focused on boys, because again, we have an intentional reach to male youth of color, but we're inclusive. So maybe 50% or more of our student population are girls. But I told them that, well, my issue is that I'm a woman of color with a program that's making an impact in the community, but I'm not funded. I could be a white girl selling cat booties and I'd be funded hand over foot. There's a lot of salaries being made off the backs of Black and brown youth in this country by dominant culture groups who truly are not making the impact that they should be making. We're cash cows to them, right? And so I said, but with or without funding, we're here for the long game, because our kids are so used to people coming in with a one-time fix and they're gone. I said, I can pull a rabbit out of my hat like nobody can. Truly, I can pull a rabbit out of my wig, okay? I got some wig. But I can pull a rabbit out like nobody can. And I was pulling rabbits out for 9 years. It wasn't until Bobby Wagner with the Seahawks, who was one of my neighbors, found out about iUrban Teen. And he made us his nonprofit of choice for our campaign that he was in. And he actually won this campaign. And so $50,000 came to us. That was the first time that we had ever gotten $50,000. And we had been, by that time, working with almost 8,000 youth.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And so Then after that, then other companies took notice and started, giving us money. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And and then last year after George Floyd, private donations were coming in like crazy,
Wow.
So
No,
yeah, we're still
no.
not where we should be, but we're heading in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, and I also want to segue the conversation a little bit because I know you have to, you don't have all night with us, but can you, because I'm sure there's a lot of people in the room who want to start social impact ventures, who want to start businesses that help benefit the community, but a lot of times, right, we want to do things that's going to help our community, but how do we generate revenue, And I mean, I know grant funding is one game to play, but, can you just speak to, how to generate funds for a social impact business? That's usually like, the challenge.
Well, you see, I wasn't good at it for almost 9 years, but I can say what should happen is one, first, know what that impact is that you want to make. I felt a need in the community for iUrban Teen, and it's still a need for those educational pathways. Make sure that your heart is in it. If my heart wasn't in it, there's no way I would have stuck with this all this time with no funding and no salary, no nothing, right? It's just that when I see, oh God, I get wimpy. When I see some of the boys come into our program at ages 11 and 12, and they already look like they're broken. They already look like they have the weight of the world on their shoulders, right? They've already been told all these things through media, through schools and all this stuff. So when I see that, I know that I have to keep going. And they feel like, and I see them thriving within our organization. Some of the things that we do when we have our events at the end of the day, and we treat our students as peers. We ask them, what did we do right by you today? And where did we miss the mark? What do you think we need to change? And what did we do wrong? What we can do better is they want more prizes, okay? Because we give prize raffles at the end of the day. I'm like, y'all know we a poor nonprofit, okay? I'm doing the best I can. But it's always the pluses. What did we get right? The workshops were great. The instructors were engaging. It was fun. We want a longer summit. But when I hear them say, I felt valued, that's when I know I hit the mark, right? When you hear them say they felt valued. Because yes, I want them to know about STEM. I want them to know about the opportunities. But more so importantly, I want them to know that they belong to something. So that's the secret sauce, I guess, in iUrban Teen, and why families stay with us year after year after year, is because they know that we truly care for their children. In fact, they think I'm like their grandma. One of the kids in LA said, Miss Deena, you remind me of a mix between Oprah and Medea. I was like, what? I said, no. But I got it and I loved it. I loved it. People that they feel close to. So it was fine.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I actually want to ask.
But I want to say about the funding piece of it. Again, find people that have an interest in that area, right? And I'm gonna be serious here. You're gonna have to, it's not a bad idea to get some rich white dudes in your back pocket, okay? Because I had to cross that line. I'm like, listen, and I'm straight up and straight honest with them. I don't pull any punches. I will say, this is why I need your help. With a couple of them that support iUrban Teen have been for years. I said, listen, you're a white male with influence. You can get in doors that I can't. And this is what I need, X, Y, Z. Now they already love my program. They trust me. And so they will help build that organization. So with a lot of their help, I had to kind of cross that color line, and you get people who are going to sponsor you and your work, right? Don't just stay so monolithic to one group. You have to look at the landscape on who do you feel can actually help your cause. Then you make sure you have a good grant writer, or else learn how to write grants yourself. Start applying for those grants, start looking for strategic partnerships, because a lot of foundations want to see that you're partnering with other organizations, right? That it's not just going to you have some set aside for this other organization, this other organization, and that you have a collaboration.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And what about innovative business models, right? I think we're in a time where we think that, hey, if I want to do something for the community, I have to only go, and I say that respectfully, I can only go to a white person or a large institution of some sort to get funding to do whatever I want to do. Do you have any thoughts about innovative business models where, like, hey, like, maybe if we package what we're trying to do in this other kind of capacity, we could generate revenue from the community directly, and now we could grow a scalable business, right? That's an impact venture. It's not a nonprofit, but it's something that's doing good for the community through revenue generation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, and the times have changed so much. I feel that because I myself am looking for my for-profit organization, I'm looking at strategic partnerships with other folk that look like me on how can we partner with this innovative tool, and move forward and build a for-profit business or businesses for ourselves. Um, in the social entrepreneur nonprofit space, it's it can be difficult and it can be challenging because a lot of times you're so far ahead of the game that others are playing catch up to try to catch up to you. So do
Mm-hmm.
you just stop what you're doing, scale back and try to bring them up to what you're doing? Or do you look for organizations across the country, which I have done? Like one of my friends is in the DC area, very innovative. So building partnerships with other people, again, finding people that share your rhythm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where what he's doing could really enhance what we're doing, totally different things, but still in that STEM space. So how could we collectively do this? Now is a perfect time for us as Black business owners, Black founders of nonprofits to do what we need to do because we are the flavor of the month right now. There's so
Yeah.
many organizations that are willing to fund and support us. So now is the perfect time. And we don't know how long this is going to last. I have a feeling when the honeymoon phase is over, it's going to be back to begging for dollars. So right
Yeah.
now is the perfect time for us to think about what strategic partnership can I build? And don't be afraid to share your intellectual property. Just make sure it's protected with others. I think sometimes we want to hold on to stuff so much and we don't want to share with others so they might steal it, whatever. I was
Mm-hmm.
like that at first, but then I realized, you know, they can try to emulate it, but they're not me. They
Mm-hmm.
can't do it like I do it. So
I don't
there's a
have the
huge
cost.
difference in that. And they really can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, y'all can try, but you ain't me.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And that's something I always advise to entrepreneurs. It's good to go out and speak about your startup because people think that I can't talk to nobody because people are going to steal it. And the real truth is that
Exactly.
so if someone's to quit their job to go and pursue your idea, which has a 90% chance of failure, is so unlikely, because just starting a business or starting a venture is so hard. So it's really good to go out there and talk. And then on the flip side, the entrepreneurs who go out there and talk, you find that they get so much user feedback, they're able to go and bring like the perfect product to market. So
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about is good. And I just maybe want to ask one more question and then open it up for Q&A for the crowd because I know you have to, be out by 7:30. So you mentioned a
I'm in
bit about
Seattle, 4 o'clock here.
okay. I mean, it's 7 o'clock here. So I think you said you were done at 4:30, or we have time beyond
Yeah.
4:30.
4:30. I have to jump on another call.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So yeah, last question. You mentioned a bit about your experience with teaching our youth and the importance of teaching our youth. As far as getting, more children of color, especially like Black children, especially Black boys involved in technology, are you leveraging history as a tool to bridge that gap in any capacity?
What do you mean using history?
From Yeah, for myself personally, I had like a very real awakening just going through history, learning about like really getting into ancient Egypt, getting into just different historical empires who have just made great contributions to science and mathematics. And just reading about this man called Imhotep, they called him like the world's first multi-genius. I don't want to get too into what he did, but he was like the first architect, the first engineer. He created the first 365-day calendar, this, that, and the third. He was the original constructor of the pyramid. So he invented the pyramids and came up with the whole concept. So people call him the world's first multi-genius, right? And myself reading about him, I had such a connection. It was like, oh my God, our people from 5,000 years ago were literally the Elon Musk of today. And
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
wow, I need to be I need to be focusing on that because we were that 5,000 years ago,
Yes, we were. No, you need to send me some of that information, because what we do is we go more recent history, right? To show all the Black inventors. Because if you notice, there's not too many of us. We don't see too many of us inventing things and getting patents and all that like we used to. So we really highlight those past inventors, Black inventors in the
Mm-hmm.
world, and so they can see that we did do this. You can do this. But I really love what you were, displaying, where I think that would be really beneficial for our students as well, especially for our boys.
Yeah. As a person who was non-technical, I was a hardcore business guy, hardcore finance guy. I worked on Wall Street, worked at a hedge fund. What really prompted me to go into tech was when I read a book called The Golden Age of the Moors. And the Moors were a group out of North Africa. They actually conquered Spain for like 700 years. They ruled Spain from like 700
Yeah,
AD to like 1400 AD. But once again, when Europe was in the Dark Ages, they were the most advanced in science, mathematics, astronomy. When Europe was closing down schools and closing down libraries, they had the most libraries in the world. They had the most universities in the world. And they helped bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. A lot of the great mathematical thinkers or thinkers in general from the Renaissance era went to North Africa to Moorish universities and came back with new knowledge. So when I started learning about that, I was just like, oh wow, like I gotta like really get into tech because that's where our roots are. And
you
that's
know,
what pushes the world forward.
where do you think that narrative changed? When do you think that changed, where we became in the master narrative, we became these these things that were lesser than? When do you think that happened?
That happened with the slave trade. That happened with the slave trade, and we're taking from Africa and we're brought here, and we were conditioned to believe that we're nothing, where our history was taken away from us. Respectfully, the powers that be, they learn our history and learn the history of all people, right? Islamic history, India's history, Chinese history, and then they go out and build their own empires. But I think the people in power understand that there's power in history and there's power in
There
knowledge. If you
it is.
keep knowledge from people, then people will never advance, and
Yeah,
I think you find that where our history is wiped, we have no connection to our past, no connection to our ancestors. We're just like kind of this like blank slate,
yeah,
and then now we're just kind of like ignorant and just walking around ignorant with no connection. And our history is hard to access. Like the Golden Age of the Moors book, that is a $200 book on Amazon. So even if you're a Black person who wants to read it, you're kind of priced out. And I even want to say on the flip side, I personally bought the book as an investment. If white people are spending $200 on a book about Black history, there must be something transformative in there. And I read it and it actually transformed me. So the proof is in the pudding.
you know what, Jeffrey, you should do one of our Mindstream online classes on the Boers.
Absolutely. I would love to. Yeah, let me know. We'll
Yeah.
set that up. I love doing,
Well, you-
the educational history stuff.
well, and even the narratives that people have given us over the years, I think for me to have our folks understand how powerful we are.
Mm-hmm.
We've been given this narrative that it's hopeless. We can't change the systems. This, then the other. Yes, you can. When I started, I was doing some diversity work at the city of Seattle a few years ago. And when I started, a lot of Black women heard about me, saw my LinkedIn profile, and wanted to meet me. And so they started immediately talking about the disparity issues there, especially for Black women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I sat and I listened, and I said, okay, so then what are we going to do about this? Their response, or there's nothing we can do. It's systematic. They do this. They're not going to allow us to. They're not going to allow us to do blah blah blah. And I said, no, hold up. First, let's change that narrative. First, understand how powerful you really are. You can't tell me that if you get a group of 50 Black women with a strategic plan in place and you walk into that mayor's office, don't you think that's going to scare him shitless? Oh, sorry for cussing y'all. I said, don't you think that there's going to be some action attached to that? So never let go of your power. We have it. There's power in numbers. We can change the world if we start working together,
Yeah,
right?
I just want to add on to that. I want to add on to that really quickly, then open it up for Q&A because I know a lot of people have questions. What you're talking about is so true. And just going back to ancient Egypt, the blueprint for how to do something with nothing is in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were people who were hunter-gatherers in the middle of the Sahara. The Sahara started turning into a desert, and they migrated to the Nile Valley. And, you know, when they got there, they thought it was great. And then the valley started flooding, destroying the homes, destroying the crops, killing people. And they literally had to use science and mathematics to survive in the valley. So it became a game of where people with nothing, but we need to produce an output, you know, to feed our people, to house our people, to clothe our people, and to create wealth for the empire, right? There was no BlackRock Foundation. There was no white person to go to get $1 million check. It was literally people together, coming together, educating each other, building together to build this, like, you know, great, vibrant empire, etc. So I just want to say that the blueprint is out there for how to do something with nothing. And
Yeah.
And not only have our people done it, all people have done it. All empires started from nothing.
You know, I've done it with, I started this with nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, say I'm a man from nothing. You know, I mean, not that I'm too accomplished, you know, I'm on my way, hopefully, but you know, everything has started from nothing. Even when you see rich, successful white people today, at some point, someone in their family and their lineage started from nothing. The British were slaves of the Romans. How did they go from being slaves of this brutal Roman Empire to completely running the world?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So the blueprint is in history. And with that being said, I just want to maybe just give the last 20 minutes to Q&A. So I know we have a couple questions. If anybody wants to actually unmute themselves or maybe raise their hand to ask a question, I'll be glad to unmute you and just give you the floor to speak out loud.
Yeah, join in on the conversation.
Yes, yes. Anybody with questions, if you want to.
Hey, Jeff, I believe Sarah shot me a question earlier.
Sure.
And she might be able to unmute herself.
Is that Al? I see my friend Al Heron is on here.
Yes, I think I just unmuted Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hello. Hi.
Hi,
Thank
Sarah.
you so much for being here. What amazing, lessons to learn. I had a question relating to, I've started this independent project for a civic tech project called Block Party with the goal to make local policy information more accessible and bite-sized. We create a full transcript with meeting highlights and topics for community board meetings throughout New York City. And this started just over the summer, but it's gaining traction and evolving. And it's really just been a passion project again, but I'm wondering what might be the best way to make this something more sustainable or long-term, or just in your advice, what do you think I should be looking to do to grow this?
Oh, wow. I love what you're doing. First off, with your program, have you reached out to different community-based organizations and getting a diverse population of students?
I would love to more. I'm pretty active on Twitter and have been connecting with different stakeholders and actually talking with different community boards, specifically outside of Manhattan, with the goal to make all 59 community boards accessible on YouTube. Just having access to YouTube, I think, that's kind of just been the next goal. So really trying to talk with these different entities and a bit with Beta NYC and also the mayor's office. We presented at Open Data Week, but yeah, what you were saying about, just doing it because you're passionate about it, that's definitely where I am right now.
Yeah, well, one thing, just I'm listening to you and thinking about, I believe in getting everybody at the table at the same time instead of meeting one by one by one by one. One of the things that you might want to do, all of those groups or associations that you're talking about, getting them, creating a roundtable conversation. In fact, Jeffrey and I talked about this the other day, just about with different schools, but getting a roundtable kind of an info session with different stakeholders that you feel would be vested in a program like yours. And then just kind of do a slide deck, a pitch. You're going to make a pitch to them and really show them the value and the reasons why. It's not just because it's a good thing to do, but you're helping to raise the next community of citizens, and the more knowledge they have on what community organizations, associations do in the community, the better for them on their stewardship of being those good community stewards. So that's what I would suggest for you to do, but also have a funding model in place. How much is it going to cost you to maintain and run a program like that? In all the different boroughs, is it going to be in more than Manhattan, right? It's going to be in Brooklyn. It's going to be in other boroughs as well, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the exciting part. The cost is essentially just the cost of a server. We have our website live, and we have 31 out of 59 boards with over 1,400 transcripts in the database. So it's also like this rich database. So I'm really looking to, see what people would want to do with it, like actually engage with the community and see how they would find value from it.
Well, and let's work because we're looking to launch iUrban Team there in New York. And so I'd love to, we have our iCivics program, which is civic engagement using technology. I'd love to partner with you once we're there in New York as well. But also think about, there's a human's time involved. How much time is it going to take for someone to even manage and coordinate this? We all are good community stewards. However, you got to start thinking about how valuable is your time as well. So when looking at funding, look for more than just the cost of a server. How much of your time is involved in making all this happen? That needs to be factored into a budget.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really great advice. I would love to follow up if there's contact info, or I follow you on Twitter.
Can you put my email in the chat? It's just Deena, DEENA @iurbanteam.org. Yeah,
we can. I even want to say, just for everyone out there, we're going to send a follow-up email with the recording of today's session and with Deena's contact email, and also how to contact us at the incubator. And it sounds like what you're doing, Sarah, might be something that could be of interest. So definitely make sure we follow up with you. But everyone will get Deena's contact info. But this one just dropped it in. But great question. Thank you. I think Francesca had a question, so let me unmute her.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm so grateful to be here, Deena. Like Jeffrey said, you are a living legend. I bow down to you. Thank you so much. I'm just so inspired by you. You are just your grace and your elegance, everything about you I love. And I would love to connect with you offline.
Now, Jeffrey, you are recording this, so I can hear that, play that back and listen to that again, right?
Yes, you can. You might have to make a meme out of it.
I know. Especially with the bowing down.
So I would love to know, how did you bridge the gap between, the powers that be and, the people in your communities, people in the inner city, urban communities? How exactly did you bridge that gap?
Well, I'm going to say, Francesca, it was a little difficult because a lot of the sources of power that I was going to try to get the support for iUrban Teen, which were white folks, they look at everything that's white centered, right? So they wanted me to run the program and build it through their lens, where I had to keep educating them on, no, I'm not doing it this way, I'm doing it this way, right? So the thing about, this is interesting, the thing about allyship and having people truly understand how to be that ally is listening to the person, understanding where they're coming from in the framework. I turned away, a lot of people were kind of upset because I wasn't doing it their way. In their mind, I wasn't listening to them. They were supposed to be mentoring this Black woman who's supposed to listen to them, but she's going against everything they're saying. And I had to educate them on, because you're looking at it through a white lens where I'm not, right? So there was a bridge there that I had to try to create. Once they understood it, they got it. So again, the support there. Now for our community is building that community of trust. They had to trust me, which they do. Like I tell a lot of the families when we have our roundtable conversations on why I started this program. And I say point blank, listen, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a techie. I can't even figure out how to program my phone, okay? But what I am is I'm the mother of 2 Black sons. So I created something that I wished my sons had when they were growing up. And so as soon as I can meet those moms and those dads there, right? That's where I bridge that divide and bring them into this program so that they're a part of iUrban Teen. So that's that bridge here. And it was a longer bridge to build in that power structure, the white folks that wanted to support, but they wanted it ran their way. So it's a very delicate dance, but I would say to be true to who you are and be true to your people. Don't sell out to try to get $1. I never did. right? So always stay true and stay on that path for our community.
That's powerful. That's powerful. We have 3 more questions. I just want to say, let's have quick questions and quick responses just so we can get through everybody. Actually, we have 4. I'm gonna give Renee first because she asked, and then we have Katie Kaminsky, Al Haran. I think I've seen another person with a hand raised. But let me find Renee to unmute you. Like I said, guys, let's just do quick questions, quick responses, because we have like another 15 minutes of Deena's time.
Hello.
Hey,
Dina?
Oh man, that sounds like, are you spinning an LP out there? Are you spinning some music? What's going on?
I really love like what you said about like how you have to collaborate with other people to move your company or your nonprofit to the next level. Can you explain how you did that and how you made that possible with iUrban team?
With how I moved people to the next level to help me support iUrban team?
How you got collaborations with people all over the US and how you connected with other companies to get funding?
Well, it's weird. It's interesting because we have pretty much led the effort in getting funded. But for me, when I'm looking at grants, I look at, okay, who can I bring in that can do work that I can't do, that I don't already have? Why should I recreate the wheel? And my friend Al is going to be asking a question. He has a program where they do certain things, and I added him into a grant. We didn't get the grant though, but it's looking at those collaborative partnerships that make sense, right? And what's the return on investment for each individual person, being clear up front, having memorandums of understanding in place so no one gets twisted and bent out of shape, all of those things, and having those honest conversations. Like I have a list of questions. When like I say, if I didn't know Al, if I heard about STEM Tech and I reached out, I would say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We do X, Y, Z. I see from your website, you do this, this, this. How can we partner? What can we do? Something like that, to look at those partnerships. When I'm looking for sponsorship or support from organizations, from corporations, I tell them point blank, not only do I have your next talent pipeline, I also have your consumer base as well, right? So the smart thing to do is, how do we partner with this woman who has all these families believe and listen to her? Because in our communities, it's, well, Deena said it's this, and I'm gonna try it. Now, all I gotta do is send a message or a note to our folks about Microsoft to say it's something negative. They're going to start a whole thing on social media. It's going to be a whole riptide effect that happens. So that's how I kind of get into these corporations and have them understand the value of iUrban team. Plus, I show our data. I measure everything. So after 10 years, I have some really tight data. So, and data doesn't lie. So anyway, so I have all of that now to back me up.
Yeah, great question, great response. And I just want to tag on to that. I was doing a little prep before our call, and I was reading an article talking about the future of impact investing, and they were saying is, it's going to be all about data. The companies, the organizations who can show data that can show data leading to impact on top of revenues, et cetera. That's going to be the people who get all the funding. So great point. I'm going to move on to Katie Kaminsky to ask her question. Thank you, Katie.
Hi, Deena. It's so nice to meet you or greet you or see you. CUNY is a part of a university network that is being supported and organized by this foundation called New America to build a new interdisciplinary field called public interest technology. And I'm working at the College of Staten Island at our St. George location to build intentional learning communities that support a high school to college pipeline. In fact, one of my first cohort students is here, Andrea Gaffaro. And these students are taking their gen ed courses that have a focus on what we're defining as public interest tech, which is shorthanded for how to use tech for good. And I'm actively recruiting students from high schools that are feeder schooled into our location who might not be drawn to traditional computer science fields, but maybe more drawn to the humanities, social sciences, and the arts, to make sure that they have access to tech skills, and partnering with the tech incubator, of course. And because I feel in order to build diversity into the tech talent pipeline, I've been a lot of things that you've been saying have been resonating with me around sort of meeting people where they're at and really helping to sort of allow for people to imagine that their interests and things that they lead with their heart with can be integrated into building these like tech and marketable tech skills and for a 21st century workforce or whatever. So you and I have a lot to talk about, but my question is, one of the challenges, and I hear that you're making connections with parents and getting students at the younger ages. I'm at the level of a student who's decided to come to college, and I don't have necessarily family and parental involvement. And some of the struggles that we're seeing is like around persistence and, just how to help students kind of manage maybe their insecurities about success in these fields. And so have you seen that in the youth that you work with in terms of challenges towards persistence, about like sort of keeping going on this, tech path, and what might be some strategies to encourage that? Because the traditional models that define failure in particular ways, have racial inequities and cultural inequities built into them. And so I was just wondering, what might be some advice you might give me of supporting students in persisting?
Well, I think that that whole thing around us with that family engagement piece, it doesn't stop when the kids graduate from high school. We now have a lot of our students who are in college, and they're still connected to iUrban Teen and their families. And so we have these cohorts of other students that might be attending the same school. So we have these ongoing conversations. The other thing is, like with one of our programs that we're launching this summer is a multi-year program where while they're in college, we are going to have a facilitated mentoring program, meaning iUrban Teen is going to be the facilitator between that college student and that company partner as well. So they stay, and I think that there's this sense of community with us and why they feel comfortable with us, but it doesn't work all the time. We have one student that I'm still working with who dropped out of college. Is extremely smart. He just felt insecure. He didn't feel like he belonged and fit in and all that. So I'm still working with him to get him back on a path, to succeed. So there's no easy answer to that. But I think with so many systems in place, there's so many systems that's built on systemic racism, right? How do you look at everything that you do through an equity lens? Even with your evaluation of your programs and the students, how do you decolonize that work? Even the onboarding systems for colleges and things, how are those students feeling welcome and a part of, and like I said, how do they feel valued by that school? So there's so many pieces to this mosaic. There's not just one, it's a whole systems change, and I think the more they see people that look like Jeffrey at those campuses that they can relate to and go to and confide in, then that will also help as well. But in academia, it's not as diverse as it could be, so Kitty, it's so much. Let's definitely keep this conversation going, because I do a lot of presentations for high schools throughout Portland and Washington on implicit bias and its effects on students of color, right? It just doesn't stop at high school or middle school. It goes all the way in through college.
Yeah, that great response and great question as well, Katie. Very relevant stuff. I guess the last question is Al. Do you have a few more minutes, Deena, or?
Yeah, I got time for Al.
All right, sounds good. Al, you have the floor.
All right, very good. I'm going to be quick. Deena, we know each other. I've learned more about you today, and it was enjoyable. And so I'm going to ask you.
I don't see you. Are you just on the phone?
Sorry about that. I had set up to do this, and I didn't do the camera thing. Now I have. Thank you.
There you are.
So yes, this has been great listening to, and I know we're short on time, so I'll just say I concur with pretty much everything you said about strategies. One of the things that STEMTAC did, although we already believed in collaboration being key, is that when the pandemic hit, we turbocharged that, and we put together what I call a strategic collaboration partnership group, and that includes STEMTAC, the Gurry Institute, Engageable Designs, which has a spectacular math curriculum and engagement program, the Breakfast Group out of Seattle, and also a Black Education Network out of San Francisco. And we call that our first tier SCP, but that's not to say that who else we want to connect to are somehow not as good. It just means that we formed a foundation from which we could reach out more effectively. And toward that end, my main reason for coming on, aside from learning more about you, is to hassle you a little bit, because I want to connect, and I definitely want to work with you and go after some more grants together. So
yeah,
I support.
Definitely. We're going to be going after some big ones here pretty soon. So, I hate that we didn't get that one big one. And I was so upset, you guys. And a lot of times it's these legacy groups that aren't nearly doing this great work as you are, but they get it because they know each other, right? So Al and I did a grant, a pretty large grant here locally. And I had Al in, and I had some school districts in, and we didn't get it. But the work that they do and what we do, there's no reason why we didn't. So a lot of times you're working against legacy groups too.
And I can confirm that by getting together, you can be effective, because just in round numbers, this SCP group has, in the last 6 months, about $400,000. Okay, and so getting an opportunity to work with you, I think we can do some big numbers. So cool.
Yeah, we got to catch back up again. I talk to Al maybe once a year, and they're we don't see each other again for like a year. And it's like, okay, there's Al. Al, thank you for being on here and supporting me.
Well, thank you, and I always will. Talk to you soon.
Okay, you take care.
Any time for one last question, or we got to wrap it up?
No, we got time.
I think Carol Charles had her hand raised. Maybe she took her hand down. I just wanted to give her an opportunity. Carol, I'm going to unmute you. Do you want us to ask a question?
Yes, I had a question. Hi, thank you so much for having us today. Nice. I'm so honored to hear more from you. I am the founder of my company. It's called Sword Games, and basically my goal is to I don't know if you know what Roblox is, but it's a really popular. Yeah. And children can basically create their own games. So what I want to do is use that idea and apply it to biblical stories, and create this world where children can like subscribe and basically gain game development tech skills, where they can like create their own games and create their own different stories. Inspiration using Bible stories, and they can create their own games. So instead of like having like mindless games like Roblox, where they're just creating games that don't really teach them anything, they're actually using like ideas and themes from the Bible to create like a gaming universe. So I think I'm still in the beginning stages. We built our first game. I'm not really techie, so I'm always having to like, I want to find a technical co-founder. Has been hard, because I'm a teacher. I'm a special educator, and I was a Bible school teacher for many years, and I'm actually pursuing a master's in biblical studies. So I'm passionate about like biblical education. I just don't have the tech part down. So I want to know, like, how do I know the difference if my company should be a company or a nonprofit? Like, how do you know the difference? Because I don't know like which path to take to have the most impact.
I would say, I would say this, make it a for-profit. Okay. Jeffrey might be saying something different. I'm going to say, make it a for-profit. That way it's yours. But you can also work with a fiscal agent to go after grants that go to nonprofits. It'll just go through that fiscal agent. You have more ownership when it's yours. Like right now, iUrban Team, because it's a nonprofit, and I've pretty much built this from the ground up, it's not mine, right? my board can kick me off at any given moment. But what they don't realize is that I trademarked that name under my name, so they can't take the name. But I wasn't born last night. So, but I would say if I had, and I'm still looking at creating a for-profit arm to iUrban Teen, I would say make it a for-profit. You already have a huge base of potential clients. All these churches that have youth programs,
forget about it.
Yeah, I'm like, man, if I wasn't such a sinner, I'd be up there in church and making some kind of deals happen. But I'm a heathen. They'd like kick me out. But you have a huge population of the church community that you could market this to. For you, it's the marketing and the branding of it is what you want to look at. And I know that Jeffrey and then their incubator, man, they could really help you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great question and a great response. And for anyone out there, if you're working on a startup, a business idea, a nonprofit, whatever, feel free to reach out to us. Always providing mentorship. More than happy to help provide mentors or get you involved with our incubator program. So yeah, definitely follow up with us, Carol, because I definitely want to learn more about your idea and see how we could help support. Because I think if you get the tech piece right, this thing, you could just blow it out the water, church. Yeah. Forget about it.
Yeah, I want to be on your board.
The kids don't even have to download it themselves. The church will mandate it. So
I know.
Yes, that would be great. So so I just want to wrap it up. Deena, thank you so much for giving us your time. I think this was like a historic talk. In my mind, you are a living legend. As much you want to say you're a sinner, you are doing the Lord's work every day.
I know, I am. I was teasing with you. I'm just an angel.
Yes, you are. You are heaven sent. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for all the work you do for our community. I'm sure you hear it a million times a day, but just from me, we speak, so you know how I feel about these things, but I'm just so grateful for all the work that you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support from you and from Jasmine. Jasmine, I see you. Hey, Jasmine. No, I appreciate you as well. Thank you so very much for having me on here today.
Absolutely. And just thank you to everyone at home for joining us. If you decided to come out here today, that means you wanted to take some time to empower yourself, build yourself up. We all want to be entrepreneurs. We're all building empires in our own right. And as I said earlier, every empire started with nothing, so don't be afraid to build from the ground up. As Deena said, don't be afraid to partner. Don't be afraid to collaborate. And I just wish everybody success. There will be a recording of this video. We will follow up with the contact for the incubator. We'll follow up with Deena's contact. And, if you guys want to reach me, you can reach me. If you want to reach Deena, that's fine as well. And just everyone have a great night and, be safe, have fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.